more.
There you go.
Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's now 7 o'clock and we'll commence. Just before we start, housekeeping. Can I request that mobile phones are either set to silence or switched off for the duration of the meeting? That includes everybody. I understand the chairman's charity is looking forward to any donations from the phones that go off tonight in 2 figures. Can I make it clear that all speakers will be introduced by name, members, officers, public speakers, prior to them speaking? I've got to explain the protocol for members and public petition and the rules of debate. The Chair's ruling on this debate, on any debate, will be final. There will be an officer introduction, an officer's report presentation, speakers in the order of speakers list, and that includes points of clarification from members. Members debate. The Chair restates the recommendation to be voted on. Seek a proposal and second for recommendation. We'll make the vote for, against, or wish to abstain, and then I'll announce the decision. Right, on to the next bit is apologies.
Thank you, Chair. We've had apologies from Councillor North, Councillor DL and Councillor Riley.
Thank you. Declarations of interest, which are not recorded elsewhere. Anybody? No? Good. Minutes of the meeting held on the 17th of October 2022. Are you happy for me to sign the minutes as a true record? And I need a proposer and seconder. Councillor Deering put his hand up. Anybody else? Seconder? Councillor Smith. There we go. Right, we'll sign those. Planning applications. NC/22/00294/DPA Land North of Gretton Road, Corby, Northamptonshire, NN 173AS. And the officer's presentation.
Thank you, Chair. My name's Fidel Miller. I'm a senior planning officer here at Northamptonshire and the case officer for this application. So this is the only item on the agenda this evening. The application was submitted in July last year, the 18th of July last year. As per the description of development, the proposed development is for the erection of a logistics warehouse with associated offices, car parking, landscaping, engineering, drainage, infrastructure works, including creation of new access onto Corby North Orbital Road. The land is located to the north of Gretton Road in Corby. This application is brought to committee because it falls outside of the council scheme of delegation. And an addendum has been circulated earlier to members with updates in relation to conditions and drawings, documents and inaccuracies in the committee report. So here's the site location plan showing the application site edged in red. So the site has an area of 12.06 hectares and is relatively flat, containing undeveloped grasslands, a drainage lagoon to the western section, and shrubs with higher ground levels along its southern boundary. It's bound by Gretton Road to the east and south, which connects to the third roundabout of the Corby Northern Orbital Road, just where I'm hovering my cursor, from the east. The western arm of this roundabout extends further west and terminates adjacent to the BCA storage facility. The southern arm of the roundabout links onwards to the second four-armed roundabout connecting Steel Road and Birchington Road near the Morrison's Distribution Centre. So here's a map of the application site, just extracted from our proposals map, just showing the application site within its wider context. The surrounding area features a mix of undeveloped land to the south and commercial existing commercial uses. Where I'm hovering my cursor just here. So this is the Willowbrook. The Willowbrook East industrial estate, and then just further to the east there is the Weldon North industrial estate. The polygon just it's coloured in purple is the zone 1 of the Prize Hall Park Sustainable Urban Extension, and then along the northern boundary of the site you can see the indicative green infrastructure corridor. And to the north of the site is the Rockingham Speedway, the disused Rockingham Speedway site. So here's the Willowbrook, just to the west of the site. So this photo is taken to the west of the site, just by the bridge along the canal. And this photograph is of the balancing pond to the western section of the site as well. And this photograph's taken from inside of the site facing southeast. So you'll see that the Morrison's distribution centre in the horizon there, and dwellings that form part of the Prize Hall Urban Extension, was Zone 1 of the Prize Hall Urban Extension there as well. So this photograph's taken from the southeastern section of the site, and this group of trees where I'm hovering my cursor just to the rear of the Weldon Lodge, Grade 2 listed building. And then here you can see the Weldon Lodge, which is currently in a state of disrepair. Just like to add actually that the site is located within the Rockingham Enterprise area, and an objection from Urban Civic, who are the master developers for the Prize Hall Park Sustainable Urban Extension, has been withdrawn last week. So here's the proposed development. As you know, involves the erection of a logistics, storage and distribution facility. In terms of use classes, we're looking at B2, B8 and EGI. The gross area is 46,451 square meters, so which equates to around, I believe precisely 500,000 square feet. Its dimensions would be 336 meters in length and 133 meters in width, which gives it a rectangular footprint, which also allows for loading bays to be located on the northern and southern elevations. This scheme also proposes an attenuation pond, just where I'm hovering my cursor in the north eastern section of the site, and extensive soft landscaping is also proposed as part of the development. So here's this is the western elevation. Yep. The southeastern elevation. So this is the elevation that would front onto zone 1. And here are north and southern elevations showing the loading bays. And here's just the southwestern corner showing the main entrance. In terms of the proposed development's appearance, it would be typical of a modern logistics building. Its height would be 18 meters to the haunch, with a maximum height of 21 meters. In terms of materiality, the proposed development would feature glulam feature columns, trapezoidal profile cladding, and horizontal flat micro rib panel cladding. And the colors would be range from pure grey, blue, as you can see, and goosewing grey for the roof, and the main walling being of Hamlet rack colour. So as part of the statutory consultation exercise, site notices were placed outside of the site. Notice was placed in the Evening Telegraph, and neighbouring occupiers were consulted. Over 32 representations were received, both objecting and supporting the proposed development, although the majority were objecting. So the objections range just listed here. So inadequate, well, there are full details on the council's public access system, but just summaries are provided here. So inadequate green infrastructure proposed, light, noise, and vibration pollution, and the lack of an acoustic barrier, visual and landscape impact, excessive plot coverage, out of character with the development being said to be out of character with the area in terms of character and appearance and scale, air pollution, pedestrian and cycle path enhancements required, impact on great crested newts, public health impacts, surplus warehouses in Corby, loss of habitat, loss of privacy, excessive bulk, mass, and height, overshadowing highways and safety concerns. So during the course of the assessment of the application, we've undergone an iterative process of with a view to addressing these concerns, just by engaging with the applicant and our internal and external consultees, and we're of a view that at this this point the conditions and mitigation measures proposed will ensure that the impacts are within acceptable tolerances. In terms of the principle of development, so as you can see from this these maps, so the map on the left that shows the administrative boundary for the Corby district area, and this polygon annotated 17 is the Rockingham enterprise area where the application is located, and then to the right there that just shows that at a lower scale ratio, and then where I'm hovering my cursor just there, that's the application site. So the site's located within the growth town of Corby and the Rockingham enterprise area, which is designated in the Northamptonshire Joint Core Strategy. And the focus of the enterprise area is to encourage employment within and beyond the planned period, and proposals. Our policy indicates that proposals that deliver a mix of high quality employment, particularly in priority employment sectors, will be supported. Officers have also had regard to the benefits of capturing inward investment from logistics development as per the aspirations of Policy 24. In the assessment of the application, significant weight has been given to the socio-economic benefits in terms of its ability to generate inward investment into Corby and secure future jobs. So in this context, it's considered that the proposed development is acceptable in principle. In terms of the economic benefits, it could be broken into divided into two in two categories. So the construction phase benefits, delivering 546 temporary jobs at the site and in the wider economy, and wider local economy, and then during construction phase economic output equates to £32 million of gross value added over the construction period. So in terms of operational benefits, we are looking at 699 gross jobs created upon operation, and a contribution of 17.5 million per annum gross value added, GVA upon operation, and then employee wages, per annum as a result of the proposed development would be around 19 million, 0.7 per annum, and the variety of jobs would also be provided as a result of the development, requiring a range of skills levels. So so you can see, 24%, 24.6% of the jobs would be degree level or higher, 17.7, A levels or equivalent, and then 9.4% requiring no formal qualifications. So in terms of landscaping, so the woodland boundary along the northern side of the site would be retained and supplemented by new woodland planting, with an additional woodland buffer created to the eastern side of the site to provide a degree of screening in relation to the Weldon Lodge heritage asset, introducing over 630 trees along the eastern and southern boundaries. The green infrastructure plan would align with the designated parameters outlined in the planning policy proposals map, which would provide a suitable framework for the protection and enhancement of green infrastructure corridors. The green infrastructure framework on site and its the green infrastructure framework and its on-site applicability to minimize landscape and visual effects identified in the landscape visual impact assessment is therefore considered to be acceptable. And then this image gives you an idea of what the planting along the eastern and southern boundaries would look like. And then this just shows an example of what the planting would look like and the landscaping would look like along the eastern boundary. So in respect to visual amenity, the landscape and visual impact assessment indicates that between year 1 and year 15 of operation, the visual amenity impact would be substantially reduced from substantial adverse, from having a substantial adverse impact to a moderate adverse impact by year 15. So you can see here that here's the baseline, and so this is what currently exists, and then at year 1, and the building would be there, but then in the by year 15 that impact would be reduced to moderate adverse, and then that is from Kestrel Road. And then here, you could see an example of the similar sort of impact over the period from Hobby Drive, and then here from the northern approach along the canal as well. So while it's acknowledged that against the baseline, there would be an impact. While the impact is acknowledged against the baseline, what's got to be considered is the employment allocation of the application that the application site sits within, by virtue of its policy allocation, and that should be considered in conjunction with the maturing landscaping as well. And on balance, officers consider, that, with due regard to those factors, that impact to be within an acceptable tolerance. So in terms of biodiversity net gain, so this matrix just demonstrates that there'll be a 6.5% total net change in habitat units. We've consulted with our ecologists who have who are satisfied with the measures proposed under condition 35 in the addendum, which essentially ensures that a biodiversity net gain will be delivered off-site by a third-party provider. And this is it's considered that this approach will allow the local planning authority to be satisfied that the applicant is going to provide the necessary biodiversity net gain as stated, and that it will be appropriately managed. And then in terms of great crested newts, so where I'm hovering my cursor, just just there. So that's Pond 1, which is identified as having excellent potential for an excellent habitat suitability for great crested newts. Following consultation with our ecologists, our ecologists are satisfied that condition 22 would adequately safeguard this species, the great crested newts, by requiring the applicant to obtain a license from Natural England pursuant to Regulation 55 of the Conservation and Habitats and Species Regulations 2017 before carrying out any works that would affect that species. So in that context, we consider that to be, an acceptable mitigation measure or control measure. So in terms of the highways and traffic, with respect to highways and traffic, as previously, the application site does not intend to use the fourth arm of the existing roundabout. Instead, it's proposed to create a new T-junction to the west of the application site, just here. And that would cut north through the central reservation to access the application site. So the access point is would be by the blue arrow, and this plan demonstrates that the proposed development would not undermine the delivery of the identified Catalyst Rockingham Speedway site, which is currently not in use, but yeah, it just demonstrates consistency with policy 27. So this is the third roundabout along the canal. So the western arm of the third roundabout along the canal. Just showing and then, so this would be the first point of access to the site, and then one would follow that road along, and as you can see, there's currently a barrier down in the just in the distance there, and then this is the central reservation that would be cut through, and then this is the access, well, the access point would be here. So just following a number of design iterations again, the LHA have confirmed that they're satisfied that the arrangement shown on the right here is deliverable in principle, and that it should be delivered in 2 phases. So just to break this down, the first phase would just involve the cutting through of this hatched area that represents the central reservation. The delivery of the green, the green sort of lines on this diagram here, to the east, and the acceleration lane. This is an acceleration lane as well, and then phase 2 would only be triggered in the event that the western part of the canal is brought into operation, and at that point this central triangle would be introduced, the central reservation would be reinstated, and an deceleration lane along with the widened bridge would also be introduced. But in summary, highways are satisfied that this is an acceptable access arrangement. So in terms of noise and vibration, the readings from the noise sensitive receptors shown on this plan indicate that there would be negligible impact as a result of the proposed development at daytime and nighttime. Further, within the noise impact report, it's indicated that the operational activities have shown that anticipated noise levels would be below the existing background sound levels, and as such, an acoustic barrier would not be required. So yeah, and that was reviewed. That was reviewed by. So the noise impact report was reviewed by our noise. Environmental health officers, and then they're content with the findings. So then this cross section just of the street containing the proposed development here, and just some of the proposed planting, some of the existing planting or trees, the Gretton Road, and then a dwelling, just sort of gives members an idea of the scale of the development within its setting, and the mitigation measures. The mitigating site circumstances, such as the trees and the separation distance. So in this context, it's considered that there would be no unacceptable impacts in terms of loss of privacy, overlooking, overshadowing, increased sense of enclosure, loss of light, and a daylight. A shadowing study was prepared, which indicated that the impacts would be within an acceptable tolerance. So, in that context, officers are satisfied that the residential amenity impacts would be, be adverse. So then, just moving on to summary of the planning obligations that have been discussed. So it's just the restoration of the Weldon Lodge. The Weldon Lodge is not, it's a Grade 2 listed building. It's not within the the red line boundary. However, the application would directly, impact on it just by virtue of its siting adjacent to it. So the applicants have confirmed that they are happy to restore the building to wind and watertight condition, and then employment skills and training contributions are also proposed, and then, as we discussed, the reinstatement of the central reservation in the event of the completion of the final phase of the canal as well. And then there's bus stop maintenance, operator, travel plan, and associated monitoring fee, then the mega rider tickets for local area employees, and this just requested that there should be a 6-month time frame for completion of the Section 106 in the event that the application is supported this evening. So just in summary, the proposed development is acceptable in principle by virtue of its siting within the Rockingham Enterprise area, and its allocation as employment land. The proposed development would involve a considerable inward investment, involving as well substantial job creation. The design, landscape, and visual impact of the proposed development would be within acceptable tolerances. The restoration of the Weldon Lodge would be a demonstrable public benefit. The Great Crested Newts will be protected by way of a license. And the biodiversity net gain will be secured off-site through a third party. The proposed development would be acceptable in respect to highways, transportation, electric vehicles, and charging points are also provided and will be secured by way of condition 14. The impacts of the to residential amenity are considered to be within acceptable tolerances. And then, as mentioned, that a previous objection raised by Urban and Civic has been withdrawn, just as a result of the negotiations and the amendments that we've been able to secure here. So it's essentially respectfully requested that delegated authority from members is given to grant planning permission for the proposed development, just subject to conditions and the heads of terms within the Section 106. Are there any questions?
Yes, it's a clarification actually. I couldn't read the small print on the net biodiversity gain. Could you tell me what it is?
So, so I could just talk you through this. Did you want me to talk you through the entire table?
There's a figure you have circled in red. I can't read it from here. Can you tell me what it is?
So that just indicates that as a result of the proposed development, there will be a net total change in habitat units on site of minus 6.53.
Yeah, that's the net loss I'm talking about. Yeah. Is that figure there then?
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought it was the net biodiversity gain that you were proposing.
No. It's a net loss, but then condition 35 ensures that that will be made up off-site.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Points?
Sorry, just for clarification, what we're saying is the actual net effect is the minus number, and what they'll do is compensate for that loss outside the site. Sorry, can you hear me now? Sorry, just for clarification, what we're saying is that although there's a loss of 5.53, that loss will be put somewhere off-site. Yes, all right, okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Deary?
Thank you, Chair. Can I get some clarification on the access points to this site, please? If I might, I have several questions on it, if we can go to that. I think we had a better one than that. So that'll do to start for me. The hatched piece in the middle, removing that barrier, what is the intention of removing the barrier, please?
So that will enable a right in and left out access as an interim access arrangement until the western part of the canal is brought into operation.
Is that for the and excuse us, is it for the traffic? Is it for the people? Is it for the lorries, the trucks? What's it for?
So that would be for the, so this is a vehicular access point for HGVs and employees and visitors.
And can you just correct me if I'm right on this? Are we talking about them crossing a dual carriageway here? Or are the traffic, is there any, how do they get across? Is it traffic lights or is it just...
So essentially, yeah, so it was built as a dual carriageway,
Yep.
but it's not in use currently.
Right.
Yeah, so highways have confirmed that in the interim, this access is, this access design and arrangement is acceptable until the western part of the canal is brought into operation, at which point that central reservation will be reinstated, and then deceleration lane, and then the widening would be, the widening of the bridge and the road will be sort of introduced to enable, safe access and allowing vehicles to sort of speed up along this acceleration lane to join traffic and decelerate to enter the site. But then that will only be delivered at phase 2, of the, in the event that the western part of the canal is brought into operation.
So what I'm going to suggest, Councillor, is that we keep the rest of the questions for the debate so I can get the public speakers in. Anybody else for a point of clarification? No, right, we'll go to the public speaking, which is 3 minutes.
Demonstrate. Hello, members, just to put you in the picture.
No, can we wait till the debate now, please?
Okay, sorry.
Thank you. Public speakers, I've got a Mr. Graham, or Graham Stave, I've got that right, I do apologise. You've got 3 minutes. Stand or sit as you feel comfortable. If you could just switch your mic on for us, please. That's long bar, that's it.
Oh, that's
you're,
right.
You're
Not
live.
bad for a 77-year-old, is it? Could I ask the other thing, Mr. Chair, whether this plan councillors can have in front of them, or ideally have it... that one. Lovely, thank you.
There we go.
Well, thank you again, Chair, and good evening, councillors. My name's Graham Stray. I'm a resident of Priors Hall Park, and I'm also secretary of the Priors Hall Park Neighbourhood Association. We welcome the job creation initiatives the council has successfully carried out, and we're not against these colossi. The Celtic development is a prime example which we supported. When we bought our houses, the plans for the employment initiative area, that's what we call it, this whole area here, showed low-rise smaller buildings, not the single gargantuan building that you're considering this evening. We believe it is entirely inappropriate, immediately adjacent to a high-quality and expanding residential development, and will affect the well-being of residents, and appears to fly in the face of Council's own local plan, which calls for that well-being to be a priority when considering industrial developments. The amendments appear to us to be minimal when considered against the size of the structure both on footprint and height. I don't know if you've watched the computer-generated video of the proposed building the developer has produced, but we've now watched it twice, and we are of the view it bears little resemblance to the plan in front of you this evening. The Council's own local plan prioritises the well-being of residents, and we would encourage you to defer making a decision this evening until our suggestions are thought through and incorporated into the building. Turn the building round so that the offices on the more attractive end of the building face the houses, and move the car park to that end of the building as well. This will allow the building to move to be some 200 metres from houses, not the 50 metres or so as shown on the current plan. It will mitigate the incredible height of the building, and parked and moving cars behind the planned 3-metre bund topped with trees and hedging will also minimise light and noise pollution. Councillors, we put a man on the moon in 1969. That's 53 years ago. It cannot be beyond the wit of architects today to work out how to lower the building into the ground whilst maintaining its operational integrity. Yes, there will be a cost, and there will be an increase in HGV traffic, removing spoil that cannot be used on site. But those movements will be short-term when the lifespan of the building is considered. Councillors, please defer and consider afresh. We know it will be time well spent. This 500,000 square foot building, together with the other one you gave outline planning permission just across the road, also approaching 500,000, are just too close for people's homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Joe Turner. You have 3 minutes. Stand or sit as you feel comfortable.
Thank you. I'll stand. So Joe Turner, I am the chair of the Priorsville Park Neighbourhood Association. I am also a resident in one of the streets that is most directly impacted by this proposal today. So to put it into context, the height of a 2-storey building is 5.5 to 6 metres tall. This building is like stacking almost 5 houses on top of each other, right next to residential 2-storey houses of a normal size. So not only will it dwarf that residential development, it will also obliterate sunlight for many properties on the outside edge of Priorsville Park. An approval of the building of this size, obviously we set a precedent for the land, the adjacent land, which is on the other side of this road here. And if we get 2 warehouses of that similar size, we basically will have residents who are in the shadow of a warehouse morning, noon and night. So they will literally get no sunlight, and they will be overshadowed in their own homes morning, noon and night. I note that there was a shadowing analysis done at what interestingly doesn't represent the most impacted houses on Lake Drive. I wonder if this was deliberate because they will be totally overshadowed. Noise pollution. So I note that there is, it states in the application there'll be not a significant increase in noise levels. I don't really understand how that can be. There's 50-odd loading bays here that aren't there today, and all of that associated traffic. So not only is it the noise of the HGVs rumbling around, but also imagine 32 degrees in the summer, you've got your window open because you can't sleep. Beep, 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 all night long. And also the impact of that noise, people are working from home a lot more nowadays, so during the summer months they've got their windows open, they're going to hear that noise. Light pollution, again, I understand that there are mitigations in there around the type of lighting, but look, quite honestly, you put in lighting 27 metres in the air, it's going to light up the sky. That lighting isn't there today, so that is going to be visible from people's bedroom windows, in gardens, all along that external perimeter. So whilst I appreciate the warehouse is a significant cost to the developer, as residents, our homes are the biggest single investment that normal people would work for. This development will overshadow and devalue their properties, not to mention the impact to the quality of life, increased pollution from light and noise and the heavy goods vehicles 24/7, 365 days a year. So I raised in my objection, and very similar to Graham, my initial objection, why isn't this turned around the other way? Why isn't the heavy industry next to the heavy industry the light commercial next to the residential. Makes perfect sense. It's further away from the residential houses. People will be much happier with that. The 3-metre bunding will also be more effective on that side with the car park there, because it's going to protect from the vehicles, and also the cars are not going to be constant. It's going to be on shift change, or come in and go in peak hours. It's not going to be there 24/7, 365 days a year. So I think, for us, that would be the best proposal as residents of Priors Hall Park, and we would really ask if we could defer this application to think about that, understand the impacts to those residents, the impacts to the lives of those residents, and we hope, councillors, that you'll take that into consideration today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I'm probably going to get this name wrong, so I'll apologise at the beginning. Is it Lucas Brandis? I do apologise.
Good evening.
Do stand or sit as you feel comfortable, sir.
I will sit. Thank you.
And you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, councillors, officers, and members of the public. I am Lucas Brandeis, European real estate leader for Siva Logistics. Siva has signed contract with the applicants to occupy the proposed development, should it be granted planning consent this evening. And I would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of the application. Siva is wholly owned by CMA CGM, the world's 3rd largest shipping and logistic company. CMA CGM was founded in 1978 by Sade family and now has over 110,000 employees worldwide. CMA CGM is headquartered in Marseille and operates in the logistics sector across 160 countries. Siva already has 5 existing units comprising of approximately 125,000 square meters within the Northamptonshire. These sites serve a range of customers across the automotive, food, beverage and pharmaceutical sector and provide over 1,000 jobs across a range of skill levels. In early 2022, Siva began a search for a new freehold unit within the Northamptonshire to accommodate the significant business growth which has further accelerated since the COVID pandemic. This search proved challenging as there is no availability of freehold bespoke warehouses of this size in the Northamptonshire and particularly Corby. Siva were made aware of the applicant's allocated land at the Rockingham Gateway, and we have worked closely with the applicant since May 2022 to legally contract to purchase the site subject to planning permission being granted. Siva have been fully involved with the preparation of the planning application and have informed the design of the building and its surrounding landscaping. We have sought to provide a development that is well screened from our neighbors whilst being functional and providing an environment that will help to attract and retain our employees. In seeking to do this, we have committed to provide 600 new trees to provide a landscape screen, a new pond planted with biodiverse flora, and areas of wildflower meadow. It's envisaged that the development will provide 700 new full-time equivalent jobs across the full range of skill sectors, and we have engaged with the local authority to ensure that we are providing roles for those seeking employment within the local areas. We are mindful that this development will be located close to the existing residential area of Prior Hall Park and via the applicant. We have thought through the design to address as many of their concerns as possible, whilst also ensuring that the development provides for the business requirements that we have. This development, if approved, will represent an investment by Siva into Northamptonshire of more than £100 million through the development alone. Siva welcome and endorse the recommendation from your officers that this application should be approved and hope that members will endorse that recommendation, which will facilitate the creation of jobs and inward investment that I have already mentioned. Thank you very much for your time.
Can you just stay seated down? I've got to apologise to Graham and Joe. I should have asked members if they had any points of clarification. So I hope you'll accept my apology. It wasn't done deliberately. Went out of my mind. I sat here.
Well, Mr. Chair.
Does any councillor have points of clarification for Graham or Joe before we come to Lucas? No. Right. Any points of clarification for our present speaker? No, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Right, Councillor Michael Page. And I won't forget to ask you to stay up.
Thank you very much, Chair.
It's having two grandsons around earlier on this evening has ruined me completely.
Councillor Michael Page of Weldon Parish Council, thank you very much for listening to us this evening. I want to focus on the planning legislation that I believe has the intent to actually balance economic development by prioritising the health and welfare of the occupants, residents and the community around this. Particularly the technical rules the planners must follow and are referred to in the report, in particular the NPPF 2021. Chapter 2 talks about achieving sustainable development through biodiversity net gain. As we've already realised, that isn't necessarily achieved here and has already been said. But Northants Wildlife Trust actually objected on those grounds. It relies on offsetting elsewhere, as it's mentioned, which is a discretionary decision by the planning officer to accept this. But why is this believed to be okay here? We're against a high-quality residential development. If it's going to be anywhere, why not here? Basically, we're looking for the highest standards to be achieved. We also, why, if you're going to compromise here, why do we have the rules in the first place for net biodiversity gain? The plans report, page 42, item 13.7, the RDF sets out building height parameters, visibility constraints for the boundary, the building's prominence in the wider landscape, and actually talks about the maximum height here. It's quoted as 16.5 metres, not 21. So you've got a 21-metre tall building, as has been stated and you've heard tonight, but it doesn't also mention, and you probably saw it in the section, that the building actually stands, the ground floor is 7 metres above the existing road level, 7 metres. So you're not talking about a 21-metre building, you're talking about 21 plus 7, 28-metre building, less than 100 metres from the nearest homes. And we've already said, would you really consent to a 9-storey residential building being built in this place? I question that. And then they talk about the acceptable because of proposed screening. Well, it's a fig leaf, let's face it, to what you're seeing here. And we talked about substantial and moderate adverse impact with the words I heard from the planner earlier on, by the way, and moderate after the screening has become mature. Last thing, part 2 of the local plan talks about, policy 2 talks about a focus on health and well-being, and policy 6 on the green infrastructure corridors. We think you're paying lip service here, and it does not get the intent of the government inspector who wrote this report only 2 years ago. We're not adverse to development. It should be right, but it should be in context. The sheer scale of this building must not impact on the existing homes. We should see some sort of a step down, we believe, between the building, between the industrial and the residential, which is why you have the height restrictions that we've talked about earlier. So why not give the building some distance? Put the car park between the existing lodge and the building, create another 100 metres away from that building, turn the building round, have the offices facing onto the residential. That actually is where all the high quality architecture is. That's where, they've got all the glulam beams at that end. Well, why shouldn't we be looking at that rather than at a blank face?
Can you come to a close, please, Michael?
Yes, I will. We're not asking for you to refuse it. We're asking you to defer this decision and really have a rethink about where this building is positioned. It has to be the right building for this site. Thank you.
Thank you. Just stay there in case there's a point of clarification. Anybody? No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, and I've got Tom Byrne next. Stand or
I'll sit
as you feel.
This might be a long way away from me up here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks very much. It's Tom Byrne from Mulberry Developments. Evening, councillors, officers and members of the public. I'm Tom Byrne, Development Director at the applicant Mulberry Developments, and I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of this application before you this evening. The Rockingham Gateway proposal is a major application for employment-led development, which responds to the growing need for modern and well-designed logistics facilities for logistics operators. The importance of the logistics industry was brought into sharp focus during the COVID pandemic, which as consumer habits continue to evolve, results in an ever-increasing reliance on logistics for all walks of life. This application seeks to respond to this need and to build on the reputation of Corby as a key logistics hub, given its central geographical location and excellent transport links. These factors are fully recognised within the North Northamptonshire Joint Core Strategy, the JCS, which identifies the logistics industry as a priority sector for growth and job creation. The application site forms part of the Rockingham Enterprise Area, an area specifically identified as being a key source of focus for job creation and inward investment, and again specifically allocated for employment development within Policy 27 of the JCS. Whilst the delivery of this long-standing allocation has stalled in the past, the application before you represents a tangible opportunity to bring forward a large part of this allocation, which will secure new job opportunities and investment not only for the benefit of Corby, but also that of wider North Northamptonshire. These economic benefits include the creation of circa 700 new jobs, as previously mentioned, across a range of skill sets, and a further 520 temporary jobs will be created during the construction of this project, giving a boost to the regional economy of circa £50 million. Alongside this, the scheme will also secure the restoration and repair of the Grade 2 adjacent heritage assets of Weldon Lodge, on and off-site enhancements to biodiversity, and improvements to local public transport facilities, as well as other financial contributions. All of these benefits fully accord with not only the policies within the JCS, but also the economic, environmental and sustainability objectives of the MPPF. Mulberry have already contracted with an occupier for the scheme, as confirmed by the previous speaker, Lucas, and thus are therefore well placed to deliver the aforementioned benefits. During the past 7 months, we've worked proactively alongside officers to the benefit of the scheme and have positively addressed the comments made. We're pleased to see that the committee report confirms that there are no objections from any of the statutory consultees, with all matters capable of resolution by way of condition or as part of the Section 106 agreement, to which we are agreeable. Most importantly, we would highlight that the officers agree that the proposals accord with a development plan for the area and can start to capture the core economic objectives of the Rockingham Enterprise Area allocation. We therefore welcome and endorse the recommendation from your officers that this application should be approved, and hope the members will endorse that recommendation accordingly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any points of clarification? Councillor Tibbett.
One element, please. The photovoltaic that's being included in the building, what proportion of the power that is being used within the building will be provided by that photovoltaic?
So there's the clarification on that matter, Councillor Tibbett, is that we're providing a very small amount of PV up front, and that is due to the forgive me, I'm not an electrician or electrical engineer, but the quality of the cabling and infrastructure within the power station in Corby cannot take power back to the grid. So the PV on the roof will provide, all of that power will be used, but we can't provide PV across the whole of the roof at this stage because the infrastructure in the wider area cannot take that. So in answer to your question, all of the photovoltaic, all of the PV panels on the roof will be used, and the capacity of those will be fully used by SEVA, the operator. And you'll have noted on some of the plans that we are providing a structure that can take further PV in the future once local infrastructure can take it.
Will, if I may, Chair, will you require additional power from the grid?
We will at day one, yes. But it's envisaged over time that when we can add more PVs to the roof, the power supply from the grid will be reduced and the building will become more self-sufficient.
So it will eventually become
That's the intention,
sustainable.
Yes. That is the intention,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Thank you. No other points of clarification? Okay, thank you.
Whilst I'm here, I may be able to clarify Councillor Deering's point on the access, if that's okay.
I'm quite tolerant.
I don't want to jump in if it's not protocol, but
No.
I thought I may be able to answer. So the Corby North Orbital Road was obviously built in 2008 as a dual carriageway, as Fidel said. It's wholly owned, well, sorry, it's not wholly owned. From the roundabout that we're talking about to the west is all owned by British Car Auctions, and they currently don't use that section. So this project intends to use a small section of that road from day one to provide an access. In the event that British Car Auctions or a future owner of that site opens it for use, we as the developer will, and BCA as the owner, will be obliged via the Section 106 agreement to reinstate that central reservation, send traffic up to that far roundabout, back down, and come into the site via a deceleration lane. I hope that clarifies that.
Thank you. Thank
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Right. Just a point of clarification for members. I've used chair's discretion to allow a few more speakers we normally have because I found it was important for you to get a wider picture. I can't promise the chair when I do it for the next one. Right, we're now on to the debate. Does Councillor Deering want to go with his questions?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the clarification on the dual carriageway piece. If I might, I think some of the issues here, Chair, is that we don't have those maps, so we know we don't understand this, which really is no place to be coming in a committee meeting like this. I would like to understand why the third arm of the roundabout is not being used. If anyone can explain that one to me, please.
Don't fight over answered.
Basically, the third arm, originally it was to allow for an access road right up to the Rockingham Speedway site. But because you've got the level changes and you've got the brook, that's not going to come forward because, you know, policies and things have changed. So basically that's why. And, you know, the size of it would basically, looking at a big, quite a large access road into that. So that the preference is to take all the traffic onto that northern, whenever that road becomes available, is use it there. And also, if you look at it, if we used that access road now, you'd have lorries basically going around the roundabout, slowing, and then trying to get into the site. Whereas at the moment, it's a free-flowing roundabout.
Does that help you? I can always ask Tom to clarify it.
I think, yes, I think the applicant can...
Tom, I think back at the chair, please. It's very important, Clara.
Sorry, just to clarify that further, what Jasper says is correct in that the idea is to avoid stacking on the roundabout and on the main road. As you can see from the building, it's the logistics operators and SEVA in particular here require a 360-degree use of the yard. So trucks aren't going in two different directions, creating internal highways danger. So you come in from the top left, go around along the northern side of the warehouse, down the eastern side, along the southern side, and back out along the western side, creating a 360 loop rather than going in any direction. Clearly from this, if you were to bring trucks straight in off that third arm, we wouldn't be able to do that. What hasn't been mentioned is that we will be planting that arm and closing it off as part of the 106 and highways obligations to create a better landscaping screen. Yeah, thanks, Vidal. So the area hatch green will be closed off and made safe via paving and other matters. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, I know I'm only a person here, I'm only a little councillor that doesn't know a lot about these things. If you're coming, so I get that, blocking that off. So if we were going back, and I'm sorry, Jasper, if we were going back to the red line, are we intending to come out at that roundabout where that red line is?
Go back to
If you go back, I know it's difficult, but if you go back, right. Right, that red line to my right of the roundabout, is that where they're meant to be coming out?
No, that's the traffic that accesses Priors Hall Park. So the traffic will come from the south, turn left at the roundabout, along the southern arm of the former canal, cut through that new hole we'll create, which obviously will be reinstated in the event the remainder of the canal reopens. And then they'll come back down the northern carriageway, of the western arm of the canal to the roundabout and then back south.
Right.
And just as the reason, and again I'm probably stepping out of turn here, but the reason we have the car park at the western end is to avoid the traffic going towards the houses to the east and all the cars. There's 388 car parking spaces and 111 truck spaces. We felt on balance it was better to take the cars and HGVs away from the site rather than bring them towards it. away from the houses rather than bring it towards it.
So it's just that the red line's confusing, because when you're talking about it, I get that you're sort of round the roundabout across the dual carriageway, but then it looks like it goes all the way around and you come back out at the roundabout.
Sure, I can see that. The point of clarity on that is that the road is currently owned by Urban and Civic.
Right.
And so as part of planning law, we have to show access to the public highway. So the public highway access on the first plan we saw showed the red line boundary going all the way down to the A6116,
Yep.
which is where it links into the public highway.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tom. We might have to come back to you again. Any more questions, Councillor Tibbett? Anybody else with questions? Go on, Councillor Smith.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for inward investment in Corby, and to the objectors, they weren't really against the proposal for the planning, but I do actually see their points where you look at the diagram and you've got the busy section of the warehouse right next to the residential area. Okay, I think it would have made perfect sense if, like they said, the car park was to the east of the warehouse. I mean, obviously, I'm just looking at it at a common sense view. And also as well, with the planting of the tree boundary, is that within the perimeter of the factory or is that outside of the factory? Because obviously I'm looking at the photographs here where they're probably planting saplings about that big, and then the third photograph shows it's probably completing, covering the warehouse. But that's 15 years. 15 years is a long time. We could be in an ice age then. I mean, you can buy semi-mature trees, and obviously half that period of 15 years to probably 7 years. So is that something that can be done?
Yeah,
If I can answer that. First of all, I do understand and take the point that the residents have made, and yourselves, Councillor. We did think long and hard and played around with the location and what it was to protect the residential properties from any noise. So from our point of view, as the developer had said, is that we want to take all the traffic. Don't forget, you're also going to get lorry traffic, and it'll be early in the morning, evening, etc. So it's taking all that noise away. And then we've also got basically the quiet end of the warehouse at that nearest towards the residential properties. There's no windows, etc. So in terms of office lights, lighting, etc. So we've tried to minimise noise, lighting, etc. on sort of everyday life of the residents of those residential properties. And we felt that was the best way. In terms, you know, although residents have suggested putting that car parking, it would absolutely not, certainly from, we wouldn't recommend that to you because we would find that too intrusive in terms of noise and particularly the lorry movements so close to houses that they would be able to hear this is the best, we feel this is the best option in terms of not only you've got the building that protects and creating a noise barrier, but you've got all the activity away from the residential properties, and plus you've got a noise barrier of the building. So in terms of those impacts, it satisfies us, it satisfies environmental health and so on. So we have taken expert advice on those matters as well. And that's why we've got the best position of that building as we can make it. And then we've talked about, you know, the cladding, breaking it down and so on. So making it, although it's going to be close, but just giving a bit of, you know, rather than it being one bland sheet, it's got features. Thank you, that's all I have to add.
Yeah, and I just wanted an answer to the question of the tree buffer zone.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, Graham. Step in. Just in answer to the question on the trees, we've consulted long and hard on this, and this has been one of the key points we've tried to address because we're mindful of a large wall of a warehouse being very imposing on residents. What we've agreed to do is plant 45% of those trees at 4 metres in height from day one, which qualifies as semi-mature. I appreciate it's not the same height as the building, but we've forgive me, I'm not an arboriculturist, but I've read a lot about it in the last few months, given this issue. And the intention of planting 4 metre height trees from day one is so that there's a better chance of their survival over the first 5 years of life, which therefore gives them the chance to become the mature trees that we've shown on our photo montages. Originally we were at much lower levels, and we've addressed that as best we can with 45% of semi-mature.
Is there any bunding going along that side as well?
There is bunding as well.
And how high is that going to be?
On the southern side, it's 3.5 metres. I'm afraid I can't remember off the top of my head what the number is, so I'd rather not quote you a number and be wrong.
Yeah. Another thing I just want to pick up whilst you're here, because you probably know this as well. Councillor Michael Page said that the height of the building is going to be 21 metres, but it was actually 7 metres higher than ground level. Is that true?
Well, the topography of the site. So this is a drawing based on our topographical survey. So the nature of the landscape is that the subject site is higher than the residential development. That is just that's the geography and what happened when the site was backfilled post British Steel days. So the finished floor level of the warehouse is 103.91 metres, which is on the left hand of the screen, and you can't quite read it, but and Fidel may be able to help me here, but I think it's 98.3 for the houses. So that's what Councillor Page is referring to. The finished floor levels are 7 metres in difference. What we try to show here is that from the top window of the house, that is the viewpoint through the vegetation up to the building, and we've modelled the existing trees behind Weldon Lodge day one, and then what 4 metre trees will look like on day one of the planting. But as I say, clearly over time they will mature and grow to hopefully provide a satisfactory screen into the future.
Graham, can you just speak your mic on, please?
Sorry, yes, thank you.
You're on.
Bunding, we accept that the 3 metre or 3.5 metre bunding with trees on top will mitigate the noise of the car park. Exactly. That's exactly why we want to the building to turn round to be considered. So that with the bunding going right round that, the end of the building closest to the houses, right? If it's moved back and around, so the car park is in front of the houses really, but behind a 3 metre bunding on day one with, and we fully accept 4 metre semi-mature trees, any noise from the cars in and out of shifts and the heavy goods vehicles that will come around that part of the building is absolutely mitigated. The residents accept that. And I know, you know, you've spoken to, with all due respect, with the experts and all that, but we live there. Thank you.
Thanks. Can you turn the mic off, please, Graham? Right. So, go ahead, Councillor. Can you put your mic on, please?
Just more a curiosity question. How close will the lorries go towards the old folks' home? Because I've seen Kestrel Road has been on the map, and the old folks' home's just off Kestrel Road, if memory serves me correctly. So on Kestrel Road. Okay. So could we have an answer to that? Would you be using Kestrel Road as in and out?
Tom, back you come again, please. You could have done this in the points of clarification. Say Tom getting up and back.
That's okay. Apologies, I don't know the exact location of the home you referred to, but no. Again, to reinstate, the reason why we put the car park at the western end of the site is to avoid any HGVs or employee traffic, visitor traffic going anywhere near Kestrel Road. It comes to the roundabout and turns left at the roundabout. It will then come back and turn south. All the HGVs will head, unless you're an employee, when you may head back to Price Hall Park, HGVs will go south only back to the A6 to 16. Sort of down that. That's okay. Have you got the other one, Fidel, the one that showed the... Yeah, so the HGV traffic will come from the left, from where the pond is, down to the roundabout and down south. I would imagine the vast majority of other vehicles will go that way as well, unless, of course, you're heading to Price or Park or north further on.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Back.
Can
Oh,
we
you
go-
better just stay there for a minute.
Can we go back to the illustration with the buildings there, please? That one. Oop, don't go back. That one there. The area, if you like, at the bottom. What are these lines representing? Is that lorry parking?
Along the southern...
all of those, that
where I'm
area
hovering
there.
my cursor right now, those are HGV parking spaces. These.
So HGVs are going to go all the way around,
Yep.
and be accessing the building from the bottom end as shown there,
Yeah, so they'll access at this point where my cursor is.
which is
Follow
fairly,
around.
which is fairly close to the housing.
No, the housing's on to the east here, where I'm hovering my cursor now.
Sorry, it's important to note they're trailer parking spaces, not HGV parking spaces.
Look, the housing is shown here. So all the housing is in the purple section. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
As
looking.
part of,
Go
zone
back
one.
to the previous
Okay.
slide that we had up there, please.
Yeah, okay.
That one.
Sorry.
Housing is at the right-hand side.
Sorry, the housing is over here, there.
Sorry,
Can you see
I
the
can't,
cursor?
I can't see your pointer.
All right, can you see the cursor now? There.
Yeah,
the pointy
that's
bit?
housing.
Yeah, that's the housing.
Yeah,
And this is what we're saying is the quiet end. So there's no lighting, no car parking here. The lorries would enter from here, if you can follow my cursor.
hang on.
Oh.
I can't see your cursor again.
All right, what we need is a pointy thing. A pointy thing. There's a pointer, do you want to?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I think...
I'm visualising a lot of lorry movements in the whole
they'll
of
go
that
here.
area.
No, they wouldn't. They'd go round here. That's where the parking is. And then they'll use the back. Do you want to?
So,
See it?
May I help out again here? Just to be clear, the trucks will come in at what is effectively the top left-hand corner of the building, if we're looking at the grey areas. So you can see the two circles with a square in the middle of it. They come in on that corner. They will travel along the northern side of what's known as the yard. They'll then traverse down the eastern end of the site and then travel along the southern yard and back out. Now, at some point, some of them will stop and reverse either into the dock level doors, which is where they offload into the warehouse, or they may reverse and park in what those, as you refer to them as lines on the southern side, they are trailer parking bays. So a truck will reverse in there, park up, and then the HGV vehicle will move off, but leave its trailer behind. What's important to note is that when reversing, these trucks will have white noise reversing alarms as opposed to the loud beeps you may have heard previously. So whilst there is an alarm for safety reasons, it's mitigated by the white noise aspect.
Okay.
I'll come to you. I'm still unsure. It looks to me as though the vehicles are all coming in from the left, past the balancing pond, following around the building at the top, coming round the end, and then coming along the bottom end and parking their trailers there, but offloading in that point as well. So I'm envisaging that is where all of the vehicular traffic, heavy vehicular traffic, is going round the building, past all of the housing before it stops. Is that correct?
So yes, there will be, the vehicles will travel in that direction as you've just described. What will likely happen, and it's occupier specific, is that they will offload on the northern boundary, then the trucks will travel around with an empty trailer, park up the empty trailer on the southern side, which is where you can see those spaces, and then when ready to fill up their trailer, they will then reverse it into where you can sort of see the L shape, or reverse L shape, where that red dot is, if you can see that.
So the whole of that.
Both sides of the warehouse, north and south, are where the dock level doors are and the loading bays are. So there are truck movements on both north and south.
A significant amount of screening is needed in those green areas to protect the visual amenity of all of the housing, is my understanding. Is that what is being provided?
That is what is being provided, yeah, correct. And you can see, here's an example of what that would look like.
What we're saying is, as Tom's confirmed, we have asked for semi-mature trees which are 4 metres high on day one, and there'll be a bank of trees on both sides to provide that screening.
So we're putting material there to raise all of the trees up, because the illustration, one of the illustrations there, is showing the trees part way down the slope, rather than with additional bunding closer to the building. Is that correct? If you go back to the cross-section of the site, that one, the trees there, we're not getting the full height of the trees because it's halfway down the slope. Whereas if we had bunding that is closer to the building and the trees on top of those, then they will be far better screening, if my understanding is correct. They're existing. The taller trees that are there, they're already existing trees. So the additional 4 metre high ones are immediately behind it, closer to the buildings, yeah?
Yeah.
That's correct, to build up that bank of trees.
So that's being built up a bit to make the screening even more effective.
That's correct, yes.
That's correct.
The bunding will be as close to the yard area as we can get it without the topography causing an issue. So right to the back of the yard areas to build up that height, to give those mature trees as much additional height as we can from day one. But being mindful, obviously, they will only be 4 metres in height.
The other aspect I have concerns about, bunding will assist in some way to lift the sound up and around. Is that going to be sufficient to provide noise deflection so that it doesn't annoy the, particularly, I know we've said there's white noise being used there on the vehicles, but I'm concerned that the amenity of the householders are not damaged by the vehicular traffic that's going around that area.
That's correct. We have consulted environmental health on those matters, and they have no objection on those.
Okay, whilst you're there...
So I was just going to say that, so that the noise impact assessment prepared by the applicant was reviewed, and specifically in the, I believe the section, just trying to find the section, but
yeah,
in section. Yeah, so section 6.2 of the noise impact assessment indicated that operational activities, would be, it's anticipated that the operational activities would be below the existing background sound levels. And, you know, obviously, so that was assessed by our own noise specialist. And
where's the existing background noise coming from?
When are you talking about sort of like the ambient level noise currently, sort of thing?
Now, I suffer from ambient level noise. It's called tinnitus. That's different from...
So look, so these receptors, yeah, shown here, so the blue marks, so noise-sensitive receptors were used to sort of measure the level of noise impact over a period.
With vehicles, the vehicles going into the Priors Hall site. Is that what you're saying? That's
so the impact it was considering was the sort of I guess simulated noise of the development. To be honest, yeah.
Sorry, I don't understand.
So the likely sort of noise as a result of the traffic entering and exiting the site. I mean that could be estimated. And actually,
may I help to clarify again? Yeah. So the noise receptor is the green dot, and that was placed on the eastern boundary close to Weldon Lodge.
That's where it was measured.
That correct. And then there were further measurements taken at R1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It is a simulated noise assessment, assuming vehicle movements and car movements generated by this development. So they take the ambient noise level as today, which is a level of decibels. Forgive me, I can't remember what the report said. And that it anticipates future decibel levels created by the development with vehicular movements, assuming the site is full. And because all the plant and machinery within the building, which is the largest noise generator of these buildings, is located away from the houses towards the speedway at the western end, that has produced a negligible impact on noise, as per the Delta Summons report.
Yeah, I'm not convinced, but...
No, it's all right, thanks. And probably a question that Tom may be able to answer. When everything's fully operational, how many vehicle movements a day are you anticipating?
You've tested me on the question I can't remember the answer to.
So we've got forecasted trip rates here. So this sort of forecasts between peak AM hours. So for HGV trips into the site, 26 between it, and then out of the departing the site, 25. So between these peak hours. So it's just and then for the PM.
Yeah.
The
So
PM equivalent.
is that total over that period or per hour?
Per hour.
Okay. Okay. So you're having every
peak. The
sure,
peak hours,
but
yeah.
every couple of minutes you have vehicles coming in, driving around the site, either dropping a trailer off or picking a trailer up. And I know you've had the advice from the experts, but I do struggle to believe that those vehicle movements, half of which are going to go around to the southern side of the building, down the end of the building nearest to the houses, that is not going to have some kind of noticeable noise impact. And maybe I'm wrong, but common sense tells you it's going to. And it isn't just reversing bleepers, it's commercial vehicle engine noise. I do struggle to believe that the layout of the building and the site, as people already alluded to, is the best compromise that we can come up with. It doesn't seem like it. The problem for the houses may or may not be the noise, but it certainly is the impact of the building on the skyline. And if it were to be moved further west on the site, that would be massively improved. So to me, this does not look like the optimum balance between quality of life and the warehousing that we clearly need. It just doesn't seem like it to me. But
the thing is that these impacts have been empirically sort of considered. And we have sort of gone back to the applicants a number of times.
It feels as if it's been pushed as close as it possibly can, without impinging, without stepping over the line where we would have to say, no, you can't do it. It really does feel like the development and the site are using every little inch of flexibility that the legislation gives them here. And that doesn't feel like a balance to me.
Well, you know, obviously the balance considers the merits as well, so.
I understand.
But,
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's a fascinating conversation we're having here tonight. Look, I don't think anybody here is absolutely objecting to having this as a project, if you like. However, I'm listening to what people are saying here, and I have to agree. I think some of this is ill-founded. I think that these so-called experts, I think most of us have gone through, I'm afraid, whether they like it or not, most of us have gone through, certainly the last few years, about so-called experts saying this and saying that, and they're simply not right. Now, I think we should be taking a lot more thought processes in this to the people that live on that corner. Now, Councillor Tibbett will tell you, and would agree with me, with Desborough, we had exactly this with the great big B8 warehouse in Desborough, which was passed and then suddenly twisted and was really close to the new estate in Desborough, but they were made to put far larger bunding up. Not 3.5 metres is, quite frankly, diddly squat. You need a far better bunding and better, higher trees on there from the onset, and that would help all the people. It would help with the environment, it would help with the noise, it would help with the biodiversity. There's lots of things that can be done to improve on what's been put in front of us.
Tom would answer this. The circuit around the warehouse, is it one way or it is one way? And what's the width of the road on the eastern side? If we can have a look at the plan view. That's it, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have the dimensions to hand, but from memory, it's 7 metres wide, the road.
Right. Also, as was mentioned, and it slipped me for some reason, the top right and the bottom right, they're parking spaces for trailers attached to HGVs or just trailers?
Just trailers. Oh, clearly an HGV will reverse
right,
them there.
Okay. I mean, I'm actually in the industry, so I know about it. And this is going to be a 24/7 operation, is it?
That's the intention.
Yeah. I would seriously suggest that you would need to provide extra soundproofing where those bays are to the top right and the bottom right, because I don't think the bunding itself is going to, especially when it's in full operation, I don't think it's going to be adequate enough. I mean, you could put temporary provision for concrete posts with soundproofing material just to cover that area, because I know when trailers and tractor units connect, especially on the 5th pin, it's loud, especially 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. It's bloody loud. So that's just a suggestion, because as I said, I didn't realise that they were bays for people to park up or drop trailers, and they do create a lot of noise. And I don't think the bunding on its own is going to help stem the noise, but if you had extra provision for soundproofing around those two, the top right, I don't mean the whole lot, I just mean those corners.
If acoustic fencing is something that could be considered,
acoustic
we're
fencing,
happy to consider that.
I mean, you could take it down eventually when the
well, we could, or leave it there. It provides an
additional. It is going to be loud at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning.
We considered acoustic fencing when we were doing the acoustic testing, and we were told it wasn't required.
Yeah.
If you feel it's required, we can certainly look at that and implement that.
You could condition it.
We can
Correct.
I was going to say, we can add a condition.
Put it as a condition.
We can add a condition to that effect.
Yeah. Yes, please. Thank you.
Anybody else? Roger. You're being so quiet this evening.
Yes, sorry, Mr. Chairman. I'll try and make up for that.
I should have said that.
I have a number of questions on biodiversity, so please bear with me. I may be lacking in certain pieces of information. First of all, I'd like to ask the officers, the applicant has submitted a biodiversity net gain assessment. Could you tell us what he is recommending as the percentage that he would like to see on the off-site?
So,
Is it
in terms of
6.53 units?
Okay, let's go back to the table, actually. What's being recommended is to offset this loss offset the total net change by the amount being by that sort of figure there, to be honest, so 6.53.
It's 6.53,
yeah,
is it?
6.53 on a
Yeah. The reason I
other
asked
side.
the question is because I believe that the standard is 10%.
Well,
net.
not yet.
Minimum, yes, minimum, but that government is actually wanting to increase that. Do we actually have in our local plan a reference to what we are going to recommend is the minimum? Is it going to be 10% or is it going to be higher? Because we can ask for a higher percentage. And I do feel that, considering what this development will presumably earn for the developers, that we could have a higher biodiversity percentage than is being recommended at the moment. And could you also tell us the size of the outlying land that's going to be used in the land bank for this? Is it going to be the same size as the 6.5 units, or is it going to be a larger area?
So, from my understanding is that the requirement for 10% comes in towards...
Sorry, I can't hear you.
The requirement for 10% biodiversity net gain comes into force towards the end of this year. And
it's November this year, and it starts with a transitional phase of any new applications that are submitted from October. So that's a transitional timetable the government is giving us.
Yes,
and then in terms of whether the developer could provide beyond what is the minimum requirement, I suppose that's.
I personally would like to see an increase in the biodiversity percentage, and I would recommend a deferment.
We may not have to do that. Is that something that you could accommodate here?
Yes, it would depend on what that percentage would look like. But we're seeking to provide 10% net gain off-site.
Let Tom answer.
So we're losing 6.53 units, but we're seeking to provide those 6.53 units back on a third-party site, plus an additional 10% on top of that.
Yes.
So we are policy compliant based on what we're proposing, based on the proposed policy that's coming in November. But it is an off-site unit purchase, essentially, to deal with it.
Mr. Chair, through you to officers, I'd like to see this condition that we have for the biodiversity strengthened. It's very vague, and perhaps we could include in it an increase in the biodiversity percentage.
What percentage?
Condition 35.
How does the 6.53 units equate to 10%? Is it 50%, 75% of that, or?
So the loss is 6.53 units, but then we would replace those 6.53 units and then add 10% to that. It equates to an area, but I'm afraid I can't recall what that area is. And the units you replace off-site depend, forgive me again, I'm not an ecologist, but my understanding is you replace the units based on the land that you are improving elsewhere. So if the land is scrub dirt, sort of just plain soil, you would maybe do half an acre. If it's biodiverse already, you would improve it over an area of 20 acres. But I'm afraid it's an area I'm not an expert in.
Thank you. So, where are we?
We wouldn't present the application to you if our ecologists had an issue with what was being proposed.
Do we know the size of the land that's being offered as an alternative for this?
We've the applicants have provided us with a letter from the third party provider, but I'd have to just, you know,
Yes,
go and have
I
a
understand.
read of it, to be honest.
I understand, yes, but
But it would be equivalent to the loss. So, to be honest, you know,
I'm after the specifics, not the
but
general idea.
If it's comparable, and you know.
So
you know,
I would like to recommend that that condition is beefed up, Mr. Chairman.
I think,
Yeah, certainly we can...
If my
yeah.
colleagues are agreeable.
All right. What we're asking is how much, at the moment, the applicant's saying they'd compensate for the loss of 5.53 plus 10%. So you're talking about 16%. Well, obviously 5.53 is to make up. So they are offering an extra 10%, which at the moment, legally, they don't have to, because the regulations won't come in until later on in the year. What you're saying, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that you want that condition to be beefed up with the 10%.
Yes.
Right, okay, that's all I want to try and get to the bottom of. So we're looking at accepting the offer that the applicant's
Fine.
making.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Any more? Right.
Can I finish this for everybody tonight, please? Look, I don't think this is, you know, I think we're all of the same mind here, and please, if you're not, please say, but I do think that, you know, this is sort of thing that we're looking for the you know, for us, Northamptonshire. But tonight has brought up a lot of things that we want to see changed. So I would like to defer this to the next committee so that we can see some of these changes and we can actually debate it better.
Seconder? Right.
Could you clarify what the changes that you're
Well,
talking about?
I was going to in a minute.
Yeah, sorry.
The members are requesting a deferment to the next committee meeting to explore, correct me if I'm wrong, the bunding, to increase the height of that, whether the building can actually be turned round, and an increase of the biodiversity, a figure to be agreed on later, because no one's got a figure at the moment. But that can be explored. There's 3 points to be explored. That's the only 3 items we'd want to look at the next committee meeting.
Not just when the building can be turned around, but whether it's possible to move it further west.
Yeah.
Physically away.
If we can relocate the building in some way, how's that for general statement? Okay?
Yeah, in terms of the bunding and the biodiversity, they can be dealt tonight by condition. And what you're talking about is moving a building. That's far more fundamental because there's all sort of different engineering works, etc. And then we'd have to undertake basically redoing the application with our experts. Because don't forget, in this case, it's about noise and so on. So, you know, I would find it difficult. I can't see it coming back to the next committee, and there will be a significant delay. And it's an answer that the applicant and the developer would like from you today. But in terms of moving the building, that's not something that our experts are supporting because of the noise and the lighting and so on. Although the residents saying they live there, there are sort of other, you know, when people sit in gardens and so on. And we felt this was the best way to reduce that noise, and even coming up with beefing up even more with the acoustic fencing. You know, that's the position we're in. By moving that building, I can't guarantee what our environmental health, our noise experts would say. But anyway,
right,
I'm leaving that up to you. But
with great respect to everybody, we've had a proposal, we will vote on it. They've got the 3 options. Allow officers to discuss and bring back what you can, or at least a statement on the 3 items at the next committee meeting. Is that fair? 2 sound like be sold out simply. 1 might need further work, and that can be decided at the next committee meeting. Are you content with that, members? Right, so those in favour of deferring for those 3 items mentioned, please show. Right, anybody against? Abstentions? Right, it's deferred to the next committee meeting. The two items you can probably do by conditions and a statement of where the relocation could be before you go into a lot of D work. It may be that the developer will come back and say, no way on this earth, we can't do it, it's going to cost us a fortune, but at least we'll know where we are next meeting. Get carried away. But can I say, it's one of the best debates I've ever had, one of the best public participation I've ever had. So thank you all. May not have got what we wanted, but it's a way of working together in North Northamptonshire that the people and the council and the developers can achieve what is best for everybody in the long term. Like I remember one development is in Wellingborough where we delayed it for 1 month, and the developer came back and said, thank you very much, we just found another 9 units. So he gave us more profit. So there could be something good out of it, so don't take it negative. Right, planning. Now we're down to item 6, delegated officers report.
No report, Chair.
Exempt items.
No exempt items, Chair.
Therefore, the meeting is now closed, and thank you for your attention.